Mr. Worgleys here. We just finished the slides. We're going to come back to the coding example. So I'm coming back to brackets. We're opening up number 3, CSS3 clock. We've already saved the code. We've already did a commit. We're now going to open up index.html. Now for a web app, this is a complete web application, and the page that you want to load first is going to be called index.html. And this is especially important when we get to servers. I'm introducing this now, and hopefully later once we get to servers, this index file name will make more sense. But just know for the future, any file that you want to open up first and automatically on the server must be called index.html. And we're going to go over this in more details later as we get to servers. Now, in this file, you're going to see I have the 5 required tags. I've set the character set. You'll see I've also added some more metadata like the author. And I have the title here. We're using jQuery. So I've already added the import. I have some styles here. So you see everything has a margin of 0, padding of 0. I have a clock ID, second ID, minute ID, and hour ID. If I keep scrolling down, you'll see I have an unordered list. The unordered list has 3 list items, which is going to be second, hour, and minute. So I'm going to make a clock, and I want this clock to show me the time and keep track of time as the page is open. So you can think about all the things we just talked about in this lecture. We talked about positioned elements, and we talked about Z index as well as set interval. So I'm giving you all the pieces you need to create this application. Now, it'd be really cool is if you stop the video here and actually create the application yourself and see how far you can get. That will really help you with your programming skills. You can follow the example with me, but if you are able to try on your own and see how far you can make it, it's going to make you a better programmer. A lot of people will get stuck, but getting stuck is a good thing because then you can figure out how to solve the problem yourself. A lot of times students will come to me, they'll ask questions, I'll help them, but I'm not always going to be there. I'm not going to be there in the industry being able to answer all the questions you have. So giving it a try on your own is going to help you in the future. Now, it's pretty funny, actually. I have received some emails from people in the industry saying, hey, I have a question about this. Do you know where I can look? Do you have any pointers you can give me? But that's not always the case, okay? I can't be there for every question you have. So give it a try. I'm going to go ahead and continue. So I'm going to let you stop the video on your own if you'd like to give it a try. And we're going to go ahead and continue with programming this. So I want to make a clock, and I need elements on top of each other. So if you remember on a regular analog clock, I have a clock face, I have an hour, I have the minute, and I have the seconds. And those are on top of each other as they're rotating around the clock face. Now, here's my clock face. Let's set this up. I already have the background, and you'll see if I hover over, that's the clock face. And I'm going to put it as a positioned element. So I'm going to make a position relative. That's going to be relative to its normal flow. I'm going to set a width. I'm going to set a width of, let's say, 600 pixels. And I don't want to distort the image, so I'm also going to set a height of 600 pixels. And now you should see your clock face. Now, this is an unordered list, remember? I have an unordered list with ID clock, and I have 3 list elements. Now, an unordered list shows you these little bullet points. So if you want to get rid of those, we can do that as well. I could say on the clock ID, we can do a list style to none. Okay, it's going to get rid of those 3 points. So I put a position relative. I need position relative because on the other ones, they're going to be inside the clock face. And I need a positioned ancestor. So I'm going to do position relative here. I don't want to distort the image. It needs to be perfectly round. So it's 600 by 600. The margin on the top is 20 pixels. On the left and right, it's auto, so it's in the center. And on the bottom is 0 pixels. So I have top, right, bottom, left. Now, what's nice about doing margin auto on the left and the right is it's going to center that object. Then I put a background image on the object, and I got rid of the bullet points. Now, for the hour, minute, and second, there may be some overlapping CSS properties that I want to apply. So instead of writing them 3 times, I can make another selector. I can say, okay, for the second hand and the minute hand and the hour hand, I'm going to apply these CSS properties to all 3. One of them is they're all 3 going to be position absolute. I have a positioned ancestor. So if I use position absolute, I can apply the effects relative to its ancestor. So it needs to be inside the clock face. So position absolute is perfect for this. I'm going to do a width of 30 pixels for all of them. I'm going to do a height of 600 pixels. You're going to see some elements start to appear. And I'm going to do top 0. And remember, 0 is 0. It doesn't matter if it's 0 pixels or 0 points. 0, 0. So it's going to be 0 from the top of the clock face. And it's going to be left, let's say, 200 pixels. Okay, you'll see 200 pixels is not enough. So I may go to 250. Okay, you'll see it's getting closer. I'm going to do 280. If I zoom in, it's almost there. Okay, but it's not quite in the center. So in the end, it actually came to 285 pixels, and that's perfectly in the center. Now, some stuff you can calculate. So I can probably calculate, okay, this is 600 pixels, and I want it to be right in the middle. And the width of the hour, minute, and second hand are 30 pixels. So then I can calculate what's half of that. So if I do 600 minus 30 pixels, okay, it's 570. 570 divided by 2 is 285. So that's where that 285 is coming from. The other option is just to do trial and error. Do 200 pixels, 250, getting closer. Okay, both are fine. But in the end, if you can calculate it with a mathematical formula, well, then you know you're exact and it's correct. Coming back to the example, we are going to make sure each element is on top of each other correctly. You'll see the second hand, if you look at a true analog clock, it's actually on the top. But in this case, it's on the bottom. And that's because our ordering is incorrect here. We can either fix the ordering or we can use some of the existing properties that we learned. Stick with Professor Wergles and I'll show you how to fix this problem.